Restaurant Operator Podcast. I'm Mandy Detwiler, editor of Pizza Marketplace and QSR Web, and I'm here today with Frank Paci, CEO of Newk's Eatery. Frank, thanks so much for being with us today.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Why don't you start off by telling us a little history of the restaurant? How did it get started, and how many units do you all have now?
Yeah, so Newk's was originally founded 21 years ago, founded by the Newcomb family, the same family that actually started McAllister's Deli. And it was originally founded in Oxford, Mississippi, up near Ole Miss campus. We now have 97 locations, mainly in the southeast. The founder is still involved in the business. Chris Newcomb is still involved in the business. And we're owned private equity. We're a sister company with FSC and owned by Capital Spring.
Okay. Well, why don't you tell me a little bit about, let's talk about off-premise dining. With a shift toward off-premise dining, Newk's has adjusted its real estate strategy and embraced smaller footprints. How do you see the balance between dine-in and off-premise dining evolving?
Right. So what we saw is during COVID, obviously the dine-in business went away, and we saw a sea change in terms of what we got as online digital orders and delivery orders grew dramatically. As we started kind of unwinding from COVID, we saw the guests come back to the dining room, but we kept most of that off-premise business. And so we went from where we were 60% on-premise before COVID to being now 45% on-premise. And so obviously that has impacts in terms of how much square footage do we need to have in the restaurants, because we just don't need as much space in the dining rooms as we do, because we just don't have the same number of guests, right? And so in addition to setting up shelves where people can come in and get food to go, right? So we kind of changed some of our operations to service those guests.
So you're going from 4,000 square feet to what?
Well, we've got some now as small as 3,300 square feet. Now, I think we could probably get smaller than that. I mean, you still have to have a decent sized kitchen in there. And so really some of it's depending on how the space is configured as well, right? But yeah, we've opened new restaurants, but a lot of it too depends on kind of what's available. I mean, for example, the most recent store we opened in Pascagoula is actually a bigger store, but it was an IHOP that we converted to a Newk's. But before it would have been difficult for us to open a new store in that 3,200 square feet, but now we have no problem with doing that. So.
Gotcha. Now, you guys have been leveraging technology, including self-service kiosks and partnerships with third-party delivery. What role does tech play in your growth strategy?
Well, we continue to try to meet the guest where they want to, how they want to access the brand, right? So as a result, we've got, obviously we've continued to invest in third-party delivery. We've got online ordering. We've got kiosks in store. You can order tableside in our stores. So really trying to make it as convenient as possible and continuing to upgrade. I mean, we just upgraded our website and we're in the process of upgrading our app to make those more frictionless. And when I talk about that, in the past, you kind of had the website was kind of a static advertising page. It's now more of an e-commerce website where, if we're showing you a product, you can click on that product and it goes right into ordering that product, as opposed to kind of just taking you to the site where you have to then scroll through and pick what you want to order. So continuing to look for ways to make it easier for the guests to kind of get what they want without having to scroll through kind of different kinds of pages, if you will. So.
What do you worry about with third-party delivery? Do you worry about the food quality or the fact that guests are not, touching the store?
I look at third-party deliveries. There's pros and cons, right? The big pro for us, we don't have big penetration in markets, right? And so we can't afford to spend huge amounts of marketing. But one of the places that we have decided to spend our marketing is in with doing partnerships with third-party vendors, right? Because my philosophy is that typically historically you've always talked about marketing. Well, how many impressions do I get in the business, and what's my cost per impression? Well, if I think about a third-party delivery, I'm able to put my brand in front of all these people that are using either Uber Eats or DoorDash or any of the third-party systems, and I don't pay anything to them from a marketing standpoint until they make an order with our business, right? So I look at it more as a marketing expense than as a cost to do business. And the other thing you always hear about, well, I spent this money on marketing. Did I reach my target audience? Well, if you think about who the folks are that are on the digital ordering sites, they're people who are getting ready to order food. So why wouldn't I want to try to get my brand in front of those people that are going to order food? And yeah, I'm willing to pay them kind of a commission, if you will, because two things are happening, right? One, there's the marketing element of it, and the second part is the order fulfillment. And we actually have a relationship with them on the order fulfillment side. So if someone goes to newks.com, those orders are also being filled by the third-party vendors, right? And so in both cases, we're doing that. Now, hopefully they're getting a good experience, right? The big challenges for us are making sure you get the order right? Because there's no recovery. And so we really work on trying to make sure, hey, we put in all the stuff, right? We put the dressings in for the salad. We've done all these other kinds of things, right? Because I think half the time the issue with third-party delivery is, not taking enough care with making sure that you pack the package, right? Now, sometimes you'll get complaints about bad drivers, but I think there's probably less of that. I mean, I know as a guest, I use third-party delivery, and I usually don't have a trouble. I've had times where the order's not right, but that's not the driver's fault, right? That's the restaurant's fault. So, I think people understand that, but obviously the better we can do on order accuracy, I think is probably a big important part of the third-party business. So.
Right. You've mentioned in the past that value for money is crucial for customers.
Right.
How does the pick three and your combo deals kind of fit into that value for the money? And do you worry about people thinking that your food is too cheap and not the kind of upscale dining that you're hoping to get, the fast casual?
Yeah, I think if you look at the guest surveys, we score really well in terms of food quality, right? So I think that's it. And certainly our franchisees, when we have franchise advisory committees, a lot of conversation is, you're trying to balance that to say, okay, great, how do I get a good margin versus how do I make sure that I'm delivering on the quality, right? And so we're not willing to accept poor quality to save money on the cost side, right? But what we're looking at is to say, okay, great. It's almost a philosophy which says spend more, save more, if you think about it, right? If you're going to buy something small, if you're going to buy like an individual sandwich, let's say I'd sell you the Newk's Q at $10.99, right? But then if you're going to do a large pairing, and I might sell you a cup of soup at $5.49. If I do a large pairing, I'm willing to sell both of those at a lower price, right? And so, because net, what's happening, instead of collecting $10, I'm getting $13.99, for example, on those. But it's saving versus if you bought them individually. So it's a little bit of that. A little bit of that is bundling, and it's and the reality is that from a labor standpoint, the cashier taking the order, it's still cashier taking the order, whether they're doing it for a $10 order, whether they're doing it for a $15 order, right? And so to me, part of this is you look at your prime cost and say, okay, great, what's going to happen to my food costs, what's going to happen to my labor costs, right? Because I'm making an order, I'm putting it in the bag and all those kind of things. I'd much rather do that for a large order. And obviously catering even gets bigger, right? If you're doing a catering order that's, $250 to $300, right? It's a very attractive business for us. So.
Well, let's talk about catering. Tell me a little bit about your catering program and how well it's working for you.
Well, what's great about our food is our food travels well. So we talk about off-premise, right? Sandwiches, salads, even pizza travels pretty well. I mean, most of the pizza delivery businesses are out there. Soup travels well. So we're fortunate to be in that. We're not worried about our fries getting cold and those kind of things, right? And so our catering business has always been a pretty decent business, but we've really kind of ramped it up. Partnering with Easy Cater, we use Monkey Media for our online, so you can go, direct online to Newks and order. You can order through Easy Cater. And one of the other things that we've done is we've partnered with Deliver That, because one of the challenges as you grow your catering business, how do you get the product there? Because you don't want employees leaving the store at lunchtime effectively to go there and then have a bad experience in store because I'm trying to fulfill the catering business. So, and having a relationship with somebody like a Deliver That allows us. In the past, we used to say, "Oh, we can't take an order until the last time to order is 6 o'clock the day before." Right now, we're kind of taking orders the day of and still fulfilling them, but as long as we have the way to fulfill them, and having those additional kind of partnerships allows us to do that. So.
Now, Newk's is a part of the FSC franchise company.
That's correct.
How does this larger corporate structure benefit Newk's, and what kind of synergies are you leveraging across the brands?
Yeah. So, the great thing is Newk's by itself was 200 some million business. And if we add then the Beef O'Brady's and the Brass Tap, we're talking about almost $500 million in terms of system sales. So we do get some purchasing synergies from that, including consolidated our purchasing department. We consolidated our culinary department. We're getting support from them on the real estate and development side. So we're actually able to leverage some of those resources to get kind of more efficiency out of the business on that. So.
Okay. The restaurant industry is facing challenges. Most everybody has labor issues, supply chain fluctuations. How are you guys addressing those challenges and ensuring continued success and profitability for your franchisees?
Well, I think one of the things that we've done is we've actually, kind of going back to this conversation about value, we've got pricing tiers I think we've got 5 or 6 different pricing tiers, which allow the franchisees to price based on what their market is, right? And so it's not like we're sitting there with one price. So in some of our markets where we've got higher minimum labor costs, we've got some higher prices, but typically the competition has got higher prices as well. So we've given the system the flexibility to try to address those issues with pricing. At the same time, what we've tried to do is continue to look at our menu and say, are there things that we can do on our menu to create value? Kind of like we talked about the pairings, like the pick 3 that we're talking about, right? Which is, now I can get a half sandwich, a cup of soup, and a half salad for a price, right? And so
that sounds great.
Trying to do that. Well, what's funny about that is 29% in our test markets, 29% of the orders have had 2 different half sandwiches on them, which is really fascinating to me.
Okay.
You're getting a half Newk's Q and a half roast beef sandwich and then a cup of soup. And it's like, but it's funny because, one of the things we always joke about is, we have this broad menu, right? And we have these loyal guests that they come in, they look at the menu, and then they order the same thing forever, right? So one of the challenges is trying to decide. Well, when we do something like the pick 3, you don't have to decide, right? You can have both. So we've done things, and then for example, we launched wraps last fall, and we engineered the wraps so that they were a little bit less expensive, so we could price them lower, right? And oh, by the way, wraps work really well in catering. So, part of what we're doing is to say, hey, how can we continue to innovate on the menu so that we can address the, evolving issues? As an example, we're going to run a salad, a strawberry salad this summer that doesn't have any chicken on it because chicken prices have gone up, right? So if the guest wants to add chicken, they can. But if they want, they can get a great salad for an attractive price, and it's actually vegetarian as well, right? So we're really trying to how we bundle and innovate and really kind of giving the guests the way that they can build their meal in a way that makes sense for them.
Let's talk about the veto vote.
Okay.
It's a common problem for groups deciding where they want to eat. Newk's has a pretty broad menu. How are you guys handling that veto vote and making sure that your menu is diverse enough?
Well, I think our menu is pretty diverse. I'm not sure, because we have salads, we have soups, we have pizza, we have sandwiches, we have multiple different proteins, we have vegetarian offerings. So those are all things that we've got out there. So I'm not sure we get a lot of people who are saying, "Hey, I'm not going to Newk's because they don't have X, Y, or Z." So
Right. Sounds like you guys have a pretty broad menu.
yeah.
Okay, well, you guys also emphasize uncompromised quality from the kitchen to the table. How do you maintain consistent food quality and fresh made from scratch approach across nearly 100 locations?
Well, obviously, the key to that is our training and our field support group, right? We've got franchise business consultants who are out meeting with franchisees. We've got a franchise advisory council, and we've got an ops committee. And so we're always looking at kind of how do we do things, and are there ways to make it simpler but keep the quality, right? And so and to keep the consistency, because that's kind of part of what the brand stands for. So a lot of it is in our procedures and what we're trying to do on that. And we partnered with Ovation to get guest feedback, so that we can see, hey, we can identify, hey, we're having a problem with this product or this store. And so those are all part of what we do as part of the franchise system to make sure that we're monitoring the quality and trying to identify issues so we can deal with them. So
Now, Nukes has simplified operations in the past, from changing the way you guys are making your dough to the way you slice your cheese.
right.
Are there any other areas where you guys have streamlined operations?
No, I think that was an initial. There were a lot of opportunities that we'd identified. I think we're at the point now where there aren't a lot of those kind of low-hanging fruits of things where we can go in and streamline the operations. But we continue. If you think about kiosk ordering as another example of something, right, where normally I have someone at the counter taking that, I can get lines there, but if I've got the opportunity for them to order at the table or order from a kiosk, it's another way for me to kind of streamline the operation and make sure we can meet the guests' needs. So.
Now, Nuke's mission statement emphasizes dedication to personal service and a passion shared by everyone. How do you foster this culture among your employees and ensure that every guest experiences the Nuke's difference?
Well, we try to emphasize culture. We've got a culture card that we give to employees, and when we do orientations on them, we talk about the history of the brand and the importance of that. Obviously, with the turnover industry, it's challenging to do that, but I mean, it's really it kind of starts from the top down and trying to treat everybody with respect and do the things that we need to do to make them feel like they're valued. So, and some of that's as simple as we got requests where the store employees wanted to wear hoodies at work, right? So we got, which is just one of those kind of strange things. You're working in a hot kitchen. Do you want to wear a hoodie or not, right? But from a style standpoint, and so we came up with hoodies with Nuke's logo stuff on them. And it's amazing. I go in the store and the employees are wearing these things, and I'm like, isn't it a little hot back there? But I think it makes them feel good, and it also, I mean, that's another part of kind of being part of the brand, if you will, in my mind. So making sure that the uniforms are comfortable and then the employees enjoy wearing them, right? So,
how important is training and onboarding and ongoing training for your employees?
Yes. So we do training. And as a matter of fact, we just did in the first quarter, we did like a road show where we did a meeting in Dallas. We did a meeting in Jackson. We did a meeting in Atlanta. We invite the franchisees and the store managers to those. We get together. It was great because one of one of our vendors sponsored a lovely dinner for all those people, right? So it's not just, and then we have annual conventions. So we had the road show in the first quarter. We've got our annual convention coming up in July. So we're, and then we've got, one-on-one with the franchise business consultants and with the area managers for company stores, meeting with the managers. I mean, we have a weekly call with our area directors to just kind of talk about what's going on in the business, keep them informed of things. So,
Okay. As CEO, what's the most rewarding aspect of your job?
to me, it's when people talk about, I love when we do social media and people say, "Oh, when are we going to have a Newks here?" That there is a kind of a pent up demand for the brand from, and it's funny. There's one lady, like, every time we do something on social media, says, "When are we going to get? When are we going to get a store in this town?" Right? And so to me, that's great. And when we opened this new store in Pascagoula, and the community came out, and it was just amazing. They felt like, "Oh, this is great. We're glad you're here." And we had taken a store that had been closed and reopened it, so they felt like it made the community look better. And so to me, that's really rewarding to realize that. Besides, I mean, we're obviously doing it for our investors and whatever, but to see that the community just really enjoys when we come to town. And when we do the average volumes that we do, obviously we're doing something right with what we're doing. So,
What piece of advice would you give to a fledgling CEO of a food brand who just got into his or her career?
to me, it's really about taking a look at everything in the business that you can. Right? I tend to look at things from a strategic and analytical standpoint. And so coming in and saying, "Well, why are we doing this?" And making sure that just because you're doing it, you should continue to do that, right? And to me, that's really what drives, because you may have done it for one reason at that time, and now things are different, right? And so to me, and be afraid to fail in terms of testing things, right? I mean, don't be afraid to do that. I mean, we've tried things and they don't work, right? But then other times, it's funny because sometimes you get unintended consequences. I had a story when I was at a previous brand. We had these loyal guests who ordered things that weren't on the menu all the time, and we thought, "Oh, this is a great idea. Let's do a secret menu and put these items that used to be on the menu before out as our LTO," right? And we thought, "Oh, this is really clever marketing thing that we're doing," right? Went out to the store, and the operator said, "Oh, I want to tell you, this is so great. This secret menu is so great, because before, people would come and order this stuff, and I used to have to ring this order up as a maid to making something else, but now you put a new button on." And so we made the operator's life easier, which was not the reason we did it, right? And so it's really fascinating, because a lot of times when I go in the store, I'll ask the manager, "How can we make your life easier?" Right? At the end of the day, it's the folks that are at the front line who make it all happen. To me, it's amazing to think about these large businesses that are in the hands of a lot of young people who are making it work, right? So you really kind of have to appreciate that, and again, try to make it simple. I mean, one of the other things that we did was, we always look at actual versus theoretical, right? On food costs. Well, I noticed that we were wasting pepperoni slices, and I was like, "Well, how are we wasting pepperoni slices?" So we started talking to operations, and they said, "Well," I said, "how many slices do we put on a pepperoni?" "Well, we put 12 on a pepperoni." "How many do we put on a slice of pepperoni?" "6." I said, "Oh, okay." So I ordered 4 pizzas from the 4 stores in the area, and 3 of the 4 had 12 pepperonis on the sausage and pepperoni. And I thought to myself, "You know what? Let's put 12 on it. And then if we need to raise the price to do that, but let's make it easy. Let's not have the employee say, 'I have to put 12 on this one and 6 on this one,' right?" And so to me, those are the little things that you can to make the job of the folks on the front lines easier. So
5 years, where are we going to be?
I think we have a huge upside, I think, in the number of units that we can do, right? And so it's really finding the right franchise partners, and continuing to improve the store level economics to make it a greater investment for the franchisees. At the end of the day, if the franchisees aren't making a good return, and then, I still think we have opportunity to build additional company stores as well. So I would like to see at least kind of a 50% growth over 5 years of this business. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. This has been awesome.
Oh, great. I appreciate it.
That'll do it for this episode of the Restaurant Operator Podcast, and we'll catch you next time.